Hello, welcome to the first episode of Poetry with Matt. I'm your host, Matthew Gillis. I began my love of poetry with this book, The Complete Works of Shakespeare. I found this in my parents' garage when I was about 14 years old, and I fell in love with his sonnets. His plays were a little confusing for me at the time, but his sonnets planted the seed of love in my heart that has flowered to this day. So I'd like to read you my first, the first one that everybody really knows, but they only seem to know the first line to it. This is sonnet number 18. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Thou art more lovely and more temperate. Rough winds do shake the darling buds of May, and summer's lease hath all too short a date. Sometimes too hot the eye of heaven shines, and often in his gold complexion dimmed. And every fair from fair sometimes declines, by chance of nature's changing course untrimmed. But thy eternal summer shall not fade, nor lose possession of thou fairest thou art, nor shall death brag thou wanderest in his shade, when in eternal lines to time thou growst. So long as men can breathe or eyes can see, so long lives this, and this gives life to thee. Now, of course, I thought right away, I'm reading Shakespeare, I can write like Shakespeare. And I guess a couple years later, I came out with this one. And it's one everybody really seems to enjoy. It's called In That Moment. I'm going to stand for this. In that moment. This brilliant ball of fire descending from a crimson heaven, and a likeness of its splendor mirrored on what was once an endless bed of deep blue possibilities. The sweet melody of songbirds did harmonize the gentle breeze, while all the while the reeds would whistle and entice the clouds to dance. And each cloud itself would slowly speak in monotone, though low and deep, one silent, solemn word of wisdom as they danced across a crystal sky. And at that moment hope flew by, followed next by honesty, unity at its side. Then the most powerful of all came near, hovering beneath her wing, transparent still behind her mask, true beauty threw me to my feet to ask, could I be the one to comprehend the depths to which severity could stretch beyond entirety? So I stood wide-eyed, as was she, hand in hand in love's embrace. Divine, I brushed my hand across her face, and then it happened. I pulled her close to taste her smile, and with that, flesh on flesh, my soul escaped inside her chest, our hearts entwined, combined and blessed. The empty space inside my mind was filled at last, one last time. That passing breeze, now gone for good, had left one final word. And if you guess the word, you get a free book. No, not really. A few years later, tragedy struck. So I picked up a bottle and a pen. The vortex of emotion channeled like a lightning bolt through my fingers, while I found the extreme emotions, whether good or bad, could be expressed, captured in the written word to be relived and understood, or sometimes set free in the fireplace. After thousands of submissions to different publications, I finally got one published, and I didn't think it was my best, but they seemed to enjoy it. It was called The Short Story. When I was 16, my best friend killed himself. Alcohol took his place and lasted 10 years at least. I met a girl. She was everything I imagined perfection to be, but she liked to cut herself. Some years later, I met another girl and was diagnosed with cancer. I beat it, but they said I would never have children. So she and I started a life together. She already had a child, but I had the habits. Foggy nights and broken furniture with sunlight mocking my naked body sprawled out on the couch again. It came time to choose another life or death. So I quit drinking, and she left me anyway. Then we got back together. My fish can swim! And our baby girl is now 5 years old. This is that girl right here. Here's me. Here's Micah. And here's Mackenzie. In fact, I picked up another book. It's called To My Child. We may no longer live in the same house, but you're always in my heart. And I got this at a bookstore for about $2.99. And it's just filled with amazing things about parents, poetry that they've written to their children. This one really struck a chord with me. It's called Being Your Parent Has Taught Me So Much About Life. When you were younger, I bestowed upon you every hope I had for the future. Like most parents, I wanted you to have the advantages I never had. I wanted you to learn from my mistakes. Now I see that I was wrong. You can't learn from my mistakes. You have to learn from your own. As much as I would love to pave the way for you, you have to experience the good with the bad for yourself. There's no other way to grow. I can, however, share in your joy, your pride, your pain, and your sorrow. And for that, I will always be here for you. That was written by Sharon M. Boucher. So as I grew older, I started connecting with other artists and writers, and I gained the confidence to share my work. And much to my surprise, I was met with mostly positive feedback, and this gave me confidence. So determined to make something of what some people have called a gift, I've come to believe that's true. Determined to make something of this gift, I enrolled in community college, concentrating on psychology, creative writing, music, and television. And of course, I wrote a few things about school. Because after all, you write what you know. So this one's called Attempted Tradition, and it's written in Shakespeare's sonnet format with my lackluster skills. Attempted tradition. And still I write today of my great class. How will one day I repay these gifts? Each face may say a world of molten glass, as we speak of ways we've taken this trip. Every soul will see the same day different, and light will pour above from education. This cup of knowledge we all sit and sip brings forth thirst for life's intoxication. Last line rhymes and a little less alliteration. Now another one I wrote about school was this one called Just Rocks. Now I think I took Intro to Geology 2 or 3 times. It was difficult for me. This freshman level introductory course was hard. And so I wrote a little bit about that. Just Rocks. I didn't come this far in my college career to fail now, but Spanish is like learning a foreign language, and geology is the study of rocks. Just rocks. I knew going into this class it would be boring, and I would probably struggle with it because my mind doesn't work that way. I can't listen to this Ben Stein-type lecture with the speed and enthusiasm of a rotting corpse. Come away from the window, Grandpa, and tell me what I need to study in order to pass. The lab is even worse. The TA is a few years younger than me, and though she has a great grasp of the material, she has all the communicative abilities of a 5-year-old. Then she gets upset with the students for not comprehending whatever painful point she is trying desperately to get across. I've survived graduate level English courses, but I can't pass a freshman year Intro to Geology. Maybe it's because they're just rocks. In March of 2000, I was dealt the most life-altering blow yet to date. I was diagnosed with Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is a type of cancer. But with a team of oncologists and support from my family and friends, I beat it, only to fall into a deep depression, questioning my own purpose in the world. The writing continued and evolved as I did. I moved to another school where I studied English and concentrated on poetry. But this experience was the main purpose for me putting together this book, How I Beat Cancer. It's a collection of poetry that I've been reading from. And the very first one is called Those Three Words. I should have known before it happened, but denial is more powerful than certainty. And when the pressure became too much in class, I called from a payphone in the foyer. The receptionist put me on hold. My appointment was for Friday to get the test results, but it was Tuesday, and I knew they were in. The doctor came on the line around 11 a.m. "Give me some good news, Doc." I usually like to do these things in person. I know, but I can't wait. Well, there's no easy way to say this. I blacked out for a moment, then hung up the phone and walked down the hall in the direction of class. But I walked past the classroom and saw the overheads beaming down on students now spilling out of open doors. But there was no sound. I could see mouths moving and papers shuffling, but it was as if someone had pressed mute on the television. And those three words echoed in my head as I fell to the floor. I have cancer. Brushes with the law and relationship problems convinced me alcohol had become a problem in my life. So I put together periods of sobriety, always with inevitable relapse. I wrote one about this I call the program. Sobriety isn't meant to come easy. If it were, then everyone would be sober and the world might be a better place. Slips happen. Relapse can be an unfortunate part of recovery. Not to excuse the slip or pardon that behavior, but one must not dwell on the negative, for it would be impossible to move forward. Rather, remember the slip and how it made you feel, then put a plan in action to prevent future slips. Call people in recovery. The program works if you put in some effort. In 2008, my daughter was born. And I wrote one on that called The Little Girl. The little girl. The day she came into my life changed everything. She's perfect in her beautiful innocence. The doctor said I would never have children, so she is my little miracle. When I held her in my arms for the first time, I finally figured out what life was about. You feel so big, yet so small at the same time, because you helped create this other person, and now she is what matters most. I want to get it all together and be the best father I can be. I want her to have the choice to do whatever she wants in life. I think she might be a 7-foot-tall supermodel. Her mother thinks she may be a doctor. Why not both? That same year, in 2008, my relationship ended. And I wrote a poem about that called I Love You. I love you. If I could go back and change things, I would. If I could take back the hurtful things I said and did, I would. If there was some way to repair the damage, I would. And if there were a way to get you back, I would. But I fear that too much has happened, and you will never let yourself love me again. Just know that I have always loved you, even when things were bad. I would do anything for you, and I thank you for giving me the best times of my life. I still write, whenever the feeling strikes me, when I need to process something, I just have this extreme emotion inside me. I feel like getting it out and putting it on the page is sometimes the best way to deal with things. So I've got this journal. It's a pretty thick journal. And it's got a few pages left in it. But every now and then I flip back and I look at some of the things that have happened, some of the things that I've written. Sometimes there's just a poem waiting to happen. Like sometimes I'll just close my eyes and I'll flip it open and grab a page and say, 4 writing intensive 600 level courses at a university respected for that program. No worries with respect to course load, however, concerns as to how productive they may be. I'm paying big money to get out of these classes, so I will get what I get. And I will get what the teachers have to offer. I like it when there's a date on here. Some of these are dated. Oftentimes they're not. Right here. I was working at a radio station. This is the day after Christmas 2005. And I entitled this one called Work. Now, you have to picture in a radio station, there's a number of studios, and they're all separated by glass, so you can see what's going on in the next station, and communicate with them if you need to, you know. But I liked being in my booth, you know, pressing my buttons and my microphone and doing my thing, and then I'd look over at my coworker. And I think I might not have liked her for some reason, because this one's called Work. The troll woman is in the next studio. I have never said hello. On my first week, I heard a funny story about her. She has been here for 3 years or more. Every Friday night, she orders a small extra cheese pizza and some buffalo wings from a pizza place in town. She has done this for 3 years or more. The same man delivered the goods every Friday night. The total came to $14.82 each time. The troll let him keep the change, 18 cents. That's right, 18 cents. The delivery man moved on to another job after 3 years or so, but he wrote an email to the station after the falling out with the delivery gig. He addressed it to the troll. Littered with copious amounts of sharp profanity, the lovely little letter ended up with a heartfelt postscript. It read, P.S. I spit on your pizza every Friday night for the past 2 years. Lesson being, if you had enough money to order goods and services, then you have enough money to tip your server, bartender, or delivery driver, as the case may be. If you don't recognize the people that do these jobs, you will pay. I had forgotten about that, but that's the great thing about writing. You know, you can pick up a piece years later and go, oh, I remember that. We had a good laugh about that. I think we even had a segment on the show about that. But point being, writing is everything to me. It's how I process things. It's how I understand the world. It's how I communicate. It's been the only constant in my ever-changing life. So I'm going to keep on writing and share my work wherever I'm able to. And I'm thankful for this platform to be able to get this out to the locals and hopefully to some people out in the YouTube world. So again, I'm Matt Gillis. You can reach me. You can reach me at poetrywithmatt@gmail.com. If you need a book or a CD, if there's anything you want, comments, critique, I'd just like to dedicate this first show to my daughter Mackenzie, who I love with my heart, every bit of it. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. This has been Poetry with Matt.